Hello, I'm Lisa Harrison, and today I'm speaking with Kelly La Sha, the author of Liquid Mirror. Welcome, Kelly.
Hello.
I haven't had a chance to read your book yet, but I have looked over your website and we've managed to have one quick chat. And I do believe you're a woman after my own heart, to some degree. But if you're willing, I'd love you to start to talk initially about your experiences as a child, because I think it gives everybody a bit of grounding about where you've come from and what you've been through and what's led you to where you're at now.
Yes, okay. Well, when I was 5 years old, my single mother and I were kidnapped by the Dark Ones, and it's what I've come to learn to call the Illuminati today. But it was an underground operation, and it's where they take in people and train them quite harshly to work in their ways, and they do baby and child sacrifices. And my a man who became my stepfather got a remote viewing of where we were, and he was notified that there was a starseed at stake, and went in and got us out. And that's a story in and of itself, not here for today. But basically, once he took us out, he and my mother married, and then he started training me in the ways of how to see the dark.
I need to ask you some questions around all of that. Firstly, where were you? Where were you living? It was just you and your mother at that point.
Yes, we were in Texas.
And when you say kidnapped, did they come into your home? Were you picked up off the street?
Yes, they came into my home. It was individuals that knew my mother already, and I believe what really happened was they drugged us. I know that my mother was drugged, and I have very little memory of this myself, and I think a lot of the memory was thankfully removed by my stepfather channeled a being, a fifth dimensional being called Moda, and a lot of healing took place when my training started. So I don't have a great deal of memory. My mom has more memory than I do,
So these were
but
people who befriended your mother in the Texas area
yes,
and then one day just came into your home and took the
yes,
two of you. When you say underground, do you mean literally underground or
yes, yes.
so in some secret underground facility in Texas, you and your mother were taken?
Yes, yes. And there are several beings now that are coming forward with these places that exist in every state, in almost every town in throughout the United States. I can't say every town, but they're coming out with all these major cities, and they're sharing their experiences of being fully inducted and trained in these places where they're performing baby sacrifices. They have to do horrific, horrific things to succeed in their training so that they can do this work for the dark.
My goodness. And how long were you there for? Do you have any memory of your time there?
No, I don't have memory of my time there. I do. I have a few senses here and there of what, and in terms of how a 4 year old might experience being separated from her mother because they did separate us. And I don't have a whole lot of memory of what took place. And I don't know how long we were there, but I think it was a little around a week, maybe.
Oh, that's well, you were lucky that it was only for a week. And
Yeah.
and this gentleman that became your grandfather, sorry, your stepfather, you did not know him. Your mother didn't know him,
No.
but he was clearly a somewhat unique individual.
Oh, yes, quite, quite. He was beyond clairvoyant. He was a medium of a fifth dimensional being named Moda, and his story is quite unique as well. I mean, really, he's an amazing person.
So he was given the information through Motor of who
Yes,
you were, where you are, and that you needed to be saved and rescued.
yes, and they gave him a remote viewing of where we were.
And he just turned up.
Yeah, he broke in and got us out.
Were you the only two people that he got out of there, or were there others that he was able to rescue?
I don't have that information. We didn't even talk about this throughout my entire childhood. It just became just this blank period, and my mom didn't remember a whole lot of it either until later things started coming back around it.
So then he and your mother get together.
Yes.
He becomes your stepfather, and he starts for initially healing you of the trauma, and then takes you through, starts your training and starts teaching you.
Yes.
So what was it he personally teaching you, or is it Mota? Did you say Mota?
Yes, Mota. And Mota was my main teacher. And that type of training was really more like a Q&A, questions about, he taught me about religion, about how it was designed to keep us from God, about how the Illuminati is running. And this is back in the early 80s. So this was back before we even knew what was going on in terms of the Illuminati and how they're infiltrated in the government.
When we all just referred to them as they.
Yeah.
And them.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that's in charge of our media, our banking system, the governments and so forth, and religion. So he was teaching me about this as a young girl. So I didn't really understand it much. But as I grew older, they were mainly, and my dad, what he would do is he would take me into the cities where these dark beings would hang out, and he would teach me how to read energy so I could recognize them.
So you just sit in public places and watch people go by and pick out the dark ones?
Yes.
Interesting. Can I ask you how you do that? What you see?
Yes. Energy is emotion. Energy is the human translation of motion. So you can read the energy. For me personally, it's not that I'm seeing images like, say, a hologram, like some people see auras and such. I can hear what people are thinking and feeling through tapping into what they're feeling and thinking, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I was not only seeing those that were trained dark and knew that they were dark and conscious of their dark ways, but there's a whole gray area of everyone in between that's just contaminated by culture. And so I call it the thirsty fish syndrome. And one of the memories I have is of this watching a young couple, and they were on a date, and they were acting as if they were in love, but I couldn't see the love. They were outsourcing on each other. Their insecurities were just trying to outsource on each other. And I could see that they were never going to go to the depths of love that I knew existed, like we have in the fifth dimension, for example, or in healthy relationships, cordless, healthy relationships where we're not feeding off of each other's energy. So
but to them, they were in love, you mean?
Yeah. Well, I would say for the most part, the masses and the relationships that you see, most of them are courted relationships, which means codependent. Mm-hmm. And that's why there's so much conflict and divorce and so forth, rather than real, true, deep love. It's something that I believe humanity has been thirsty for a very long time. It's been a very long time since we've experienced true love for one another the way that I've experienced. And especially in the fifth dimension when I get to visit what I call home. And so what we're doing is we're learning how to heal our insecurities and heal that insatiable emotional wounds that we carry so that we can have cordless, healthy relationships. And then we bridge that into self-love, and we bridge that into reverence and love of God in our own existence. And that's how we heal the thirsty fish syndrome.
So when you see a couple like that, do you literally kind of see a cord between them?
Yes, I do see cords, yes.
What does a good, healthy, truly loving relationship look like to you when you see it?
I see that there are no cords, and there are two individuals that are completely self-sourcing their energy, which means they're confident, they have self-love, and they don't need to outsource their energy on another. And it's very rare.
So when you say you go back to 5D, what does that look like and how do you do it?
I would love to talk about that. The emotional qualities of 5D is what we have to look forward to. When I get to go visit home, and these journeys started when I started my shamanic training, and I believe that the shamanic training was watering the seeds that had been given to me throughout my earlier training, because I left my path for a while and wanted to just pretend like none of this existed. It was very painful. I did not enjoy my childhood. I saw too much and had too much care in my heart for humanity to witness how much suffering there really is going on in the world, even in America, which is through shallow love, because I know that this is what everyone's thirsty for. And all of the sessions I do, it all comes to this, that everybody wants love. And so it was difficult for me to witness the lack of health throughout humanity. And
So hang on, before you move on to the 5D question though that I just asked, your stepfather, his training with you carried right on through your teens.
yes.
When did that stop, or did it stop because he passed away? I know he has passed away.
No, I completed my training. It was I had learned what I needed to learn up to that point, and that's when I decided to just be a normal person. And I went to college and did the corporate life and international marketing, raised a family, and I reached a point to where my soul was not satiated. I knew I was off my path. I wasn't listening to my soul. And again, energy, the soul's language is energy, and the human translation of energy is emotion. And I believe that depression is a symptom of being off of your soul's path, what your soul yearns to express and give here throughout its journey and incarnation here. So I recognized that immediately when I started getting severely depressed, and I knew I had to do something to get back on my path. Mm-hmm. And I had to be willing to see the dark again to do that, which is why I wanted to go in denial, because it's a very painful subject, especially when you can see what's really going on.
Right.
So I had the courage to step back on my path, and I chose shamanism because I believe that the shamans, what I call true shamans, the pure shamans, are healers, and they have a foot in both worlds. So they have access to an emotional experience of creator, an emotional connection with the earth, an emotional connection with the sun, and they have the highest good of the tribe in their mind, in their heart's intention, and that's their role. So I chose shamanism to learn their ways and have access to go on shamanic journeys so that I can stay in connection with my fifth dimensional guides, with creator, and with myself, so I can stay hyper vigilant and hyper aware of what my soul wants to express and communicate here in this lifetime.
So how long ago was that for you when you began this shamanic journey?
Let's see, 6 years, I believe.
Okay, so you really did take some time out.
Yes, I sure did. It caught up with me too.
So at that point, is that when you started to receive the information that came through that became the book, Liquid Mirror?
Yes, it all started 3:39 every night. I would feel something come into my heart, and I call these, at the time I called them journeys home, because I experienced pure, unconditional love, and I would just sob for hours and hours and hours. It's something that it's rare to hear of these experiences here, and I was looking for anyone that had experiences like this, and I haven't communicated with anyone yet that has had these experiences, and I'm sure that there's plenty of it out there. But for me, it felt like going home, where I could feel my community and how much we love one another. It's just so intense how much we care. And the fifth dimensional realm, we experience our oneness in a very literal way, where if you make an affliction on the other, then you're making an affliction upon yourself. So we see each other as one, and then we pull up everyone's gifts and encourage them to express their gifts and grow in the way that they want to grow. So it's a very supportive network of loving beings that's self-sourced from the creator.
Understood.
And then we practice love together by supporting each other in the ways that we want to grow and express ourselves.
So when you visit home, is that a process that you can do at will through meditation?
Now I can, yes. For years it was spontaneous. All of my journeys were spontaneous. And now I can intentionally journey. And what I've been doing, because there was a period of time when I was really, really homesick, I would have these experiences of visiting home, and I would come back and get a little depressed because the density here is so intense. I mean, this is a testament to all of us that walk up in this darkness. That what is it about those of us that are aware of what's going on in 3D, 4D, 5D, the Ascension, the dark ones that have been in charge of the planet for 26,000 years. There's a specific reason why we're aware of it. It's because our souls have the capacity to wake up in this density and then do something about it.
And you're saying that's quite an achievement.
I believe so. It's a testament to the strength of our souls. We think that we're weak. We think that we have no idea how powerful we are. We just have to remember it's innate in us. It's the innate design of the soul is that we're powerful light beings. And the sun is reflecting that for us right now, by the way. You can just see the way it's very, very different. It's not just solar flares. And it's about this time of the ascension, and it's reflecting for us our light inside. It's showing us who we really are.
Well, there's a lot of talk about how the sun is changing. It's changing in the energy that it's emitting to us, solar flares. Are you saying that it's a direct reflection of our own expansion and our own awareness?
Yes, it is. I believe it's participating in the ascension process, especially the way it's midwifing us, it's midwifing the earth, and it's preparing to align with the galactic center. It has a consciousness. It is a conscious being. You can have a conversation with it just like you can have a conversation with the earth. And it knows what it's doing. It's supporting us through this process. And when it aligns with Hunabku, this will be the event that we're already in, by the way. We're already having access to 5D. We're reverberting back and forth at an accelerated rate. That's why we have these symptoms of ascension now. And the gift of it is to recognize that we are having more and more access of our fifth dimensional selves than we ever have before, and it will continue to grow at an accelerated rate. And the fifth dimensional being means that thought is instant manifest. Mm-hmm. And so there are no limits. All is possible. Your intention is instant manifest.
I feel like I remember what that's like. And I actually have very little patience for the time lag that we experience here between deciding what I want or deciding how something should be and then having to wait. Very frustrating.
Yes, it is. Well, at that, we're getting very close to this time where we're recognizing that the time gap is shorter between intention and realization. Have you noticed that?
Oh, definitely. For the last few years, yeah.
Yes. So we have a lot to look forward to, and our imaginations are the only limitation that we have because we've been trained to believe that only certain things are possible. Mm-hmm. But at this point, we're not even going to be living in the same system of 3D physics. They won't exist in 5D. We won't even be on an Earth where life feeds off of itself to survive. It's going to be quite different from this.
So what is your vision as to what ascension is, this process? Because there's a couple of things that I find conflict in, for example. Mm-hmm. How can I put this? Abraham, that is channeled through Esther Hicks, says that we are leading edge creators. And that feels true for me. Mm-hmm. That we are on the leading edge, the cutting edge, and we are creating as we go. Yes. And I've had several sources, several people that I've spoken to, interviewed, that have said the same sort of thing in different ways. That it is we are growing God, as Alpha Ra put it. And I agree with you completely that we have no idea just who and what we are and how powerful we are. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is our imaginations that are creating creation, so to speak, expanding it. And everywhere you look around with nature, nature's impetus is to grow and expand and evolve. So taking that into consideration, this talk of ascension is often explained as, okay, we've come down to 3D, we've come down through these finer dimensions to grosser and grosser dimensions, and now we're in 3D, now we're going to turn around and go back again. And that, to me, seems contradictory to the way creation works. Mm-hmm. So, if anything, my thinking is that we're actually bringing these finer dimensions down into the grosser dimension of 3D, and we're empowering the 3D with what we would call the 4 and 5D energies and the 4 and 5D abilities those kinds of things. We're bringing them down into 3D.
Yes.
So I know that's contrary to what most people are saying in terms of what's happening and what this ascension process is, but it's the only one that actually makes sense to me in terms of the way creation seems to work. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I agree with you. And I've thought a lot about this one. It's such a vast subject because we have experts in the field that I immensely trust. And everybody has a different path. And I do believe that there are beings that may not have experienced 5D. And so they're going to experience ascension in a very different way. Like Drenville Melchizedek is teaching people how to bring their bodies with them and become a new race of beings. I think there's maybe perhaps another genre of souls that intended to come here and be part of the dreamers of the new reality. And the Inca say that we will be the new dreamers of the new earth, those of us that choose that path. And they are also the ones that say that the earth will be a fifth dimensional place as we become fifth dimensional beings with her. And that's when we will be able to use our imaginations to create a new society, a new humanity that is based on love, fulfillment, and reverence.
So if I say that this ascension process, at least for me, like you're saying, that there could well be different groups who are going to experience different outcomes here, and this is exactly what we talked about on last week's collective imagination program too, is the way that some information absolutely resonates completely with one individual and not at all with another. And it may well be because there are different soul groups here with different intentions and different outcomes. Is that what you're saying too?
Yes, I believe that as well.
So for me, the way I view it and visualize it and what feels true for me is that my job here is to ground fourth and fifth dimensional energy within myself and then ground it within the earth.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, good. Thank you. So how do we do it? What's if that's for the people who are listening to this and that's the information that resonates with them, so therefore hopefully that's part of their story. How do you do that?
There's several layers of this. The beginning step is self-healing, healing our emotional wounds so that we're the masters of our frequency, because our frequency is what's informing the mirror of what we're creating. And so if we have still resentments or places where we need to forgive others or forgive ourselves or practice, it's a very intentional path of self-healing and self-sourcing your energy. So all of the emotional wounds need to be addressed. And there's plenty of tools out there now. EFT is a fabulous tool. Liquid Mirror has plenty of tools in it. And if we take that path on intentionally to heal our wounds, then we become the masters of our frequency. And then we can be in charge of our emotions from that point on, instead of our triggers choosing our emotions for us, like frustration, irritation, conflict in our relationships. Those are mirrors. Those are mirrors of the health or lack of health within your soul. So if you want to be in charge of your frequency, be in charge of your wounds, heal your wounds, and then be in charge of your emotions. And that's how you manifest your frequency intentionally. And that's broadening your frequency already. Then you can bring in a direct connection to God, because we've been told that we are sinners, that sex is shameful, that we're damned to hell, and we need to be baptized if otherwise. We've been taught that God is vengeful and unforgiving. And when we can break those imprints and then start having a dialogue, a loving, reverent dialogue with our Creator, we are backed by that frequency of this powerful, unconditional love that has been kept from us on the earth for way too long. So it's a doorway that is open to us now. So that's a very, very big piece, is to connect directly with our Creator, and then to tap into what our soul's purpose is, to listen to the soul, because it knows what it's capable of. It knows what its capacity is. It knows how powerful it is, and it knows the heartful intention that it has to give forth here. So, and this is The way I see humanity right now is, have you ever heard the story of how they train elephants by
Mm.
starting them when they're really young and they're chained
Yeah.
as babies, and then when they grow up, they take the chain off and they have no idea how powerful they are
Yes.
while they're being abused and abused and abused, and they just put up with it and put up with it when they could just trample over their trainers.
Hmm.
I think that's exactly what's going on here with humanity. And this is what claiming sovereignty is all about, is being able to recognize what the matrix is saying to us, disagree with it, see who's behind it, and say game over. This is what the starseed's role is to me, is to claim sovereignty for all of us and just intend it and to see it very clearly, closing and going through the bottleneck.
Sovereignty is a word that's shrouded in controversy for me, because it means different things to different people. And it means, for some, it just means national sovereignty. It means personal sovereignty outside the matrix on a very 3D level.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about soul sovereignty.
Yes.
How do we go about claiming that? I mean, and especially if we are on the brink, if we will listen to all the talk online, if we're on the brink of becoming aware of our neighbours cosmically, how do we, as a planet and as a species, maintain our sovereignty within that as well?
Well, it's up to every individual to claim their own sovereignty. That's the biggest piece right there, and that is recognizing who the players are, where the imprints come from, where our thoughts and emotions are coming from. They've been manipulating our emotions and thoughts again for too long, so people are unfamiliar with where their thoughts come from, and they've been trained to ignore these little silent voices where they could be connected to their soul and to their creator. So that's the first step, is for us to recognize the matrix that we're in, pop out of it intentionally just by being aware of it. Awareness is a very powerful thing because light pierces the dark. It's not the other way around. So awareness is power in and of itself. And now you take that and drop into a soul's passion and a soul's purpose and give it the freedom to exuberantly create what it wants to create. There's nothing more exhilarating and fulfilling than that.
You know, we talk a lot about how people are waking up, but there's so many different things to wake up to and so many different levels to wake up on. For instance, you might wake up to the fact that the financial system is what it is, that it's a fraudulent controlling system. But that's different to waking up, having a spiritual awakening. You know, waking up to the way the 3D paradigm operates is on a whole different level.
Yes,
if you know
absolutely.
what I'm saying, to having a spiritual awakening. And we're having people that are, waking up in both ways, in both senses. And we have people who are purely waking up to the 3D realm and how that's being worked and manipulated. And we're waking up to the fact that there's problems and what's causing those problems. Mm-hmm. Some people are waking up beyond that to the solutions. But how does all of that relate to a spiritual awakening overall? Do you think it's just a step and everybody will get there eventually?
There are definitely the phases of awakening. We all have this grace period here between now and, I don't want to call it an event because we're in the event, but we are in this transition of this huge, huge, huge opportunity for our souls to experience their broadest capacity in 3D. And everybody's going to go through their different phases and stages of that, and at their own pace. But with the tools and the encouragement and the enticement to what's possible within that, it gives the impetus to do the self-work, to do the foundational work of self-healing, the soul healing, and then to be courageous enough to see what's going on, and then to not agree with it, not buy in. So, work out of the system, and then do your frequency work. Because I believe that, like the prayer work that you're doing on Wednesdays, when you have that many people putting an intention, and we're all aligned with one intention, that to me is the return of Quetzalcoatl. It's the tidal wave of light that insists freedom and sovereignty for all, so they can go at their own pace with their own self-discovery of what they want to do. And this is why I believe that some of the material that's out there in the internet, they're saying, well, wait a while, and we're taking care of the dark cabal, and then we're going to have UFOs come down and ETs come down and save you. So just sit back and wait, and we'll be here soon to save you. But just wait and wait and wait, and that's yet, and yet is never.
If anybody who listens to my interviews or listens to my radio show knows that, I'm not buying that one.
Yeah.
To me, it's just more. It's more divide and conquer. It's more suppression. It's more. It's feeding back into what religion feeds into, which is you are, kind of pathetic little creatures who can't do this on your own, and will need to do it for you. And I do believe that this ascension is a completely organic process, and there is no need to get into a spaceship or a chamber or anything else. Who knows where you're going to end up? Yes, I agree completely on that score.
There is another piece to this, and this is discernment, practicing discernment between malevolent 4D intentions and fifth dimensional beings that have your highest good in their intention. And I can tell you that I've literally seen the difference between a UFO and a fifth dimensional being showing up. And what I've had occur 3 times when I do ceremony, and I call them in for backup and clarity and communication and guidance. And they show up as bright, huge, white orbs, and they come in close. And you can feel the difference between the intention behind these beings that are there to support you on your self-expansion, not to save you, not to distract you, but to support you in your work. And that's very, very different from the emotional quality that I get of the intentions behind ETs.
Are there ETs on a third dimensional level outside of Earth that you're aware of?
Well, that's not my specialty. I always think of that's an interesting question, actually, because I do believe that exists. And at the same time, I believe that a lot of the UFOs I have seen are fourth dimensional beings using their spacecraft to get here.
Have you come across any fourth dimensional ETs that aren't malevolent?
I do believe they exist. I can't tell you that I've come across them personally, but I do believe that some of the Palladians, for example, there's benevolent ones as well as malevolent ones. But that's probably the same for any star system that you look at. I think George talks about this way as well, George Kavasilis.
But once you get to 5D, it's all benevolent.
Exactly.
So if we are in a position now where we're traversing on an individual level as well as a collective level between 3 and 5, we're passing through 4, we're hanging out in their realm, so to speak. What's the best way I believe that you only need protection if you believe you need protection. And I know there are a lot of people out there who do believe they need protection. What do you have a technique for doing that?
Yes, that's a really good question. I think first of all is with awareness, that is the protection. We don't, there's nothing to protect. We're light beings. There's nothing to protect. There's no harm can be done to light beings.
So what about people who are having these abduction or encounters, experiences that are just absolutely horrific?
Yes. I can give you an example. My mother has had some visitations recently, and we know they're trying to tag souls. That's their agenda, so that they can have more of them to feed off of, because they don't think they're going through the bottleneck, basically. And my mom would just claim that I see you, and this is my soul, It's untouchable. You are not allowed in my universe. I see you, but you do not exist in my universe. It's a very powerful statement, and they quit showing up just from that alone. And I really like George Kavasilis' story about how when he was literally strapped to the table while they had an anal probe sucking the life force energy out of him, which was the most excruciating experience of his life. And he decided that he broke free from, like the elephant breaking free from the chains, saying, I am more powerful than you. You can't do this anymore. And he broke free, walked through the walls, went to the captain of the ship and said, do you get it? And they quit bothering him. So all it is owning our power and remembering that we are all powerful.
So since you had contact at a very young age with the dark, what did you call them? The dark ones. You were, I'm assuming at this point, but you're going to have to clarify for me whether that was purely the human element here.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That was purely human. And they have the way I understand it, and this isn't hard lined yet, but we're all piecing together the history of the Earth. But from what I understand, the Archons have been behind a lot of this. Mm-hmm. And I think we have several races within those tiers of the Archons, and they're the ones that have infiltrated humanity through religion, governments, and politics, and so forth. And the media is a big one. They're in charge of the whole banking. They're in charge of the whole system here.
Yes.
So
when you were rescued out of that facility, though, did they ever make attempts to get you back, or have they tried to infiltrate your life over the years?
Nope.
Wow, they just really? That's amazing.
Oh yeah, no, my dad made sure that that wasn't going to be possible.
Just from an energetic perspective?
Uh-huh. Yeah, he made his statement very clear, and then we removed ourselves from that area.
Okay, well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your... Okay, well, that sort of gets rid of the next question then, because I was going to say, how do you have to, in any way, counter or deal with the dark?
Because of the work that I do encounter them, because I journey here and there to keep track of what's going on the other side. And I do wear protection because of that kind of invisibility that I need to have.
But that's not you're not talking about the human element here.
No, that's when I'm doing shamanic journeys.
Okay. So with your own children, you've got a few of your own.
Mm-hmm.
How have you, as a mum, and also with all of this going on, how have you sort of brought them up? What world have you brought them up in?
Mm-hmm. My children are so amazing. I've taught them everything that I know. They've been my teachers as well, profound teachers. They're just such wise, beautiful beings. And I do keep them protected by a mirror-like orb around them, so that anything that goes in their direction gets reflected back to the sender.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a powerful medicine in and of itself.
Because as a mother, me too, that I just find it interesting to see how people are, what they're sharing with their kids and how they're bringing them up in this world and what they're preparing them for.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incredibly interesting to see how we're sharing with our kids and what we expect of them for the next
yes.
for the next go round.
It's definitely the soft spot for everyone, especially parents. It's it's where we feel vulnerable, because that would be that's the worst thing imaginable, is seeing our children suffer or harmed, or they might not ascend. It's all of these concerns that we have, especially with the earth changes coming, and that's a tough one. But again, if we practice non-attachment, and this is a big piece of the 4 intentions that's in the ebook, that we can use to prepare ourselves in these times. Excuse me. And one of them is practicing non-attachment to our relationships, and non-attachment from our material objects, so to speak, our materialistic values, letting go of outcomes, letting go of addictions. This is the practice of non-attachment. And some people automatically go, well, do you mean not love my children? I mean, what, not care about my children? It's not that. That's not it at all. But a lot of parents that I work with have codependent cords with their children, and that's when their children are, rebelling and not wanting to spend time with their parents because there's some kind of push or pull agenda, and that's codependence. So there's several levels of non-attachment that we can practice with our emotional relationships. So within that, we hold each and every one of them fully capable of their own process in this transition. It's fearlessness.
Yeah, we have to honor them as the powerful light beings that they are as well.
Yes.
Yep. And when you mentioned earth changes, there's certainly a lot of talk about. You in California?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, apparently you and I are going to be underwater in the next week, so.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yes. What do you feel about all of that? What, in terms of earth changes, what's coming? I mean, are we getting purely organic earth changes? Are we getting manipulated HARP earth changes? Are we getting a combination of both? And what do you feel about all that?
I mainly communicate with the Mother Earth. And I do believe that she's holding back a lot of these earth changes. So we're altering the timeline, so to speak, in terms of how many earth changes that we will witness. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, ultimately, I don't believe that the earth, the 5D earth, will be anything like this. I think that, how George says that the crust of the earth won't be here, which sounds incredibly drastic and scary. But by the time we are fifth dimensional beings, the earth won't be anything like it is now. So I just hold all is possible and I am safe anytime between now and then, because I know that my soul has an intention to complete its journey here.
When do you think then is?
Well, I don't believe it's on the date of December 21st, 2012. I believe that there's going to be a profound energy that we are going to receive from Hunab-Ku, the center of our galaxy, at that time. And that's when we're really going to go into an accelerated expansion into the fifth dimension. And we're going to be reverberating back and forth throughout the whole process, 3D, 4D, 5D, 3D, 4D, 5D, until it's ultimately just 5D. So it could be any range between a drastic shift or a very gradual shift. And it's not our decision. It's not the ET's decision. This is between us and the Earth.
Mm-hmm. So you've referenced George Kavasilis a few times. He talks about the time between, I think, the 21st of December and the 21st of March, maybe?
Yes.
As being this transition time.
Mm-hmm.
And that the major earth changes will happen after that.
Yes, and that's the equinox. And I don't disagree with him. But I do believe that the event of December 21st is a significant one because we're going to be fully aligned with Hunab-Ku. And for me, the ascension is not only an organic process, but it's an ascension. It's a solo journey. And when we know that the time is right, whatever it is, we don't know what it's going to look like, but I have a sense of what it will feel like. And I'm going to put the center of Hunab-Ku inside of myself and drop right in and go through my own birth canal all the way home to the in-breath of God. And that is where we will experience our oneness again, the immense, profound love that we have for one another, the immense, profound love and appreciation we have for our existence, the immense, profound love that we have for our Creator, for creating us. And then we go from there.
I'm of the same mind in that I don't think we're going to see anything necessarily dramatic happen on the day. I think some of us may feel something rather dramatic or profound on the day. Mm-hmm. And whether I'm one of them, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important to be mindful on that day, very mindful of who you are, the world you want to be in, of being mindful of how you're expressing yourself that day, what your thoughts are, I think that's going to be important because that may
Absolutely.
well play a very big part in what happens next.
I agree. Absolutely. I don't believe that there will be a significant event that will be very dramatic or recognizable.
What do you think of the 3 days of darkness talk?
I've always agreed with that because it would be reasonable for it to be something like that as we're going through a shift, and some will be going through the shift rather quickly and be awake through it, and then they'll be assisting those that it might be too intense for them and they might go into a deep sleep. I don't take it as literal as literally 3 days of darkness. It could just be metaphorical. But
Okay.
I do believe that there's going to be some kind of period where we're all kind of going through this intense adjustment, so to speak.
Well, 3 days in the overall scheme of things is pretty quick.
Really.
Yeah. So for those of us who haven't had a taste that we can really, really name of 5D, can you talk more about that? About what it feels like, about and when you, how can I put this? When you experience 5D, is it as if you are becoming one with that 5D aspect of yourself? Are you, is it kind of merging your 3, 4, and 5D aspects?
Well, that's a great way to describe it. Yes, I never thought of it that way. And now to integrate that, yes. And then the way we can access that emotional experience now is to understand that it's the kind of emotional love that none of us have ever really felt here before. And so now, if we can just imagine outside of what we know, what we've known has been possible thus far in terms of having an enlightened experience or actually sitting in the lap of God and feeling the love of God, and start imagining what that's like, because the only reason why we haven't experienced this level of love is because we've been taught not to expect that it's not even there.
It's just your imagination.
Well, imagination is creation. Imagination is creation in 5D. And so if we're pulling our 5D self into us now, we increase our imaginations to hold what is possible. All is possible. Well, if all is possible, then what is my imagination want to create for myself? What do I want to experience? And I can tell you that the common soul purpose for existence is to experience and express and give love. That's what we're all thirsty for.
So how did it get all so screwed up here?
Well, back again, if we look at the history, the religion was a big piece of this, that we were born sinners, that God is way up there and we're way down here, and it's not pleased with us at all. Our sexuality is shameful, and we got cut off from the source right there.
Mm.
I mean, we know that the Illuminati is run the Catholic Church, and we can see the results of that.
Yep.
It's just becoming quite obvious where all of this came from, and that's why I say if we break out of the imprints that have been taught to us, then we choose our own imprints based on what we want to experience. One last piece on that, and that is, we've all been in this slavery. We have to work 9 to 5, and people, we have this fantasy, oh, if I could just earn a living at my art or my creativity or my music. Everybody has that passion, but only a few get to do that. And so we just got hopeless and we gave up and we just bought into the system. And now if you can imagine being a fifth dimensional creator, it's exuberant creation. It's creativity abound, infinite creativity. And you're just like a 2-year-old, completely enthralled with everything that you're creating, using your imagination and expanding yourself, continuously emerging, creating yourself anew in every given moment. It's exhilarating. It's talk about sovereignty and freedom. It's so unfamiliar to us, but if we can use our imaginations and really tap into that's what our soul's yearning is all about, and have the courage to dream bigger, that's a huge step. It's so well worth it. It's fulfilling. It's creating satiation within you.
And I think that's changing too. I'm seeing more and more people leaving the corporate world, leaving the jobs that they don't like and they know are soul destroying, and just to basically jump off a cliff and dive into what their passion is.
Absolutely.
And most of them are landing on their feet. And the ones who don't are just the ones who have so much doubt and fear.
Mm.
And they end up back in the matrix, so to speak. But yeah, I think people are really feeling that it's more important now, and the consequences be damned, so to speak.
Yes, I agree. Everybody's taking their own pace throughout it. And again, even those that don't land on their feet, to not quit, just to then dissect your doubt. Get rid of it. Recognize that that is your doubt and it can be healed and released. That's again when you're the master of your own frequency. You're the master of your own life. You're at the captain's seat of your own soul. When you can just address these doubts and let them go so you can be free from them.
The other thing that's nice to hear too is feedback from people who say that my family have thought I was nuts for years. And now, now they're coming to me and going, oh my God, you were right about this and you were right about that. So, I mean, yeah, this wake-up call that we're getting right now is affecting a great deal of people.
Yes, it certainly is. We're watching the wave. It's really exciting.
It is exciting. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And this is, it's the only show in town, really.
Yeah,
is
really.
to be here right now.
That's right.
And that's the other thing you hear all the time too, is that it's standing room only up there. People wanting to get in. And you wouldn't be if it was to come here just to be destroyed in a cataclysmic event, surely.
Right. And it's not a vacation either.
No. So you got to work at it. And like you were saying about earning a living, it was one of the things that I never understood even as a kid. Because as a kid, my thinking was, well, I didn't ask to be here. I'm here because Mum and Dad weren't careful. So why is it? I mean, and you only get 5 years, on average, to be a kid, and to just be nurtured and looked after before you're thrown into a system where you sort of put in the training cogs of. Well, now you've got to decide what it is you're going to do to justify your existence here.
Yes.
And become a productive member of society.
Yes.
And that never made sense to me. Why do I have to pay someone, whoever that someone is, to live on the planet I was born in? And how come I get to be one of the people who pay and other people get to be the people who get paid?
Yes.
I want to put my hand up for that job.
Yes.
How do I become one of them?
Exactly.
It never made sense to me until I started, the long journey down the rabbit hole.
Yes. Well, I believe that system is changing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, what we're clearly seeing, all of the 3D structures that are built on fraud and lies and manipulation and deceit, they're all crumbling.
Yes.
Whistleblowers has become, I don't know, it's like the thing to be right now.
Absolutely. It's heroic.
And they're coming out of every sector, whether it's pharmaceutical or media or government, secret government. I mean, it's all over the place. So getting back to the more practical aspects of trying to integrate what's going on and what we're feeling. I mean, I mentioned to you the other day that what's today? Today is Tuesday. Last Thursday at 3:00 specifically in the afternoon, I went from feeling absolutely fine to quite literally a wave coming over me and chills, aches. My body aches were so bad that I actually could not lift my arms to even shoulder height. And absolutely feeling terrible. Spent Friday in bed, spent Saturday up but not feeling great. Sunday was finally feeling actually good. And the funny thing was, I actually felt different. I felt like something had changed. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I looked different. And I thought, okay. And you can tell the difference between feeling like crap because you're actually unwell and your body's in a fight, and feeling like crap, but not feeling sick. It's feeling like you are in a process of a healing crisis. Something is changing. You can feel equally bad, but it doesn't feel sick. And that's how I feel like I've been the last few days. And it sort of kicked in again yesterday and is all in my head at the moment, so I sound a bit blocked up. But again, I don't feel like there is something wrong with me. As bad as I feel, there's nothing actually wrong with me. And I know that people are going through these things all the time, and I've actually been sick, in inverted commas, more in the last 12 months than I probably have in the 10 years previous. I went to Thailand for 3 months last year, and when I came back, I remember having a conversation with someone. I don't get sick, because I just didn't, and I hadn't for so long. And this past 12 months have just been intense. And I know that a lot of people out there are going through the same thing. And thankfully, a lot of them are not racing to the doctors either to try and get this diagnosed or treated or get antibiotics to suppress it or whatever. They're just going through it. When it comes to these bodily changes, are you buying into the idea that our DNA is changing, that we are getting extra strands, or we're becoming 12-strand DNA? Do you have any information on that?
Yes, I do. I don't have, well, not that I have information on it, but I do believe that that is occurring. I can feel it in my own body. I know that something like that is happening. And so as we have these symptoms come up, I see them as they're happening for me. They're not happening to me. So rather than resist it or get worried about it, I turn it into a gift. I reframe it into this is happening for me, and I let it do its work, and I integrate it. And then I do, just like you said, I notice that something, I feel different, like more clear or stronger, or like I released something heavy through whatever that initiation was of the symptom I was experiencing. And, my friend was just telling me on the phone before this interview, and she said that she was stung by a wasp yesterday, and she had this entire wave go through her body of pain that it hit her whole nervous system. And as she got through it, she felt like she got something out of it, like she got a deeper sense of clarity after that experience, because she was in quite a bit of pain. And it was not a normal wasp sting. So, you just wonder what, where these things come from. And at the same time, when we see it as a gift that's happening for us and not something happening to us, we're at peace and in harmony with it.
What that reminds me of is, have you ever read the books Anastasia?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, it came out of Russia. There's one scene in one of those books where, and I can't think of his name because it's been a while since I read them, but the main character is lying down on the grass and all of these ants crawl up and start biting him. And he's trying to brush them off, and Anastasia's saying, no, they're healing you. Let them do what they've got to do. And that's just not our response at all to being bitten and stung by critters. But there's a gift in all of it. And that's interesting what you said about the wasp. A whole different way, just by simply reframing the experience, she got something different out of it.
Yes.
Although, presumably she's not highly allergic to them.
Oh, thank goodness.
So to me, these body changes are happening because these bodies, these vessels, are trying to incorporate more of us, more soul mass, more of our being, and the body has to make adjustments in order to be able to hold it.
Yes. I had an experience once that was really, really intense. I was writing and just minding my own business, and I got into some kind of spontaneous shamanic journey, and it was one of those really profound experiences of visiting home that I had. And it took me 2 or 3 days to recover from that journey. I didn't even, everything was see-through to me. I didn't feel like I had a 3D physical body anymore. I called my friend over to help me walk. It was so intense. And I asked my 5D guys, what happened? What is this all about? And why is it taking me so long to recover? How is this good for me? What's happening? And they said, well, if you know that your DNA is being shifted already, so why wouldn't you have some pretty strong symptoms with something as profound as that.
Yeah, like you said you said about not feeling as heavy on Sunday when I was feeling a lot better. I literally felt lighter, and I still do. I feel like I weigh a couple of kilos lighter, and I'm sure I don't, but I feel like I do.
Uh-huh.
I should go and weigh myself. I actually don't own scales. I wouldn't have a clue what I weigh. But I physically feel, yeah, lighter.
Uh-huh. There's something to that.
There is, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole body just feels a little bit different.
Hmm.
So what is it that you really want people to know from you? What do you want to, what do you, if you have a message, what is it?
That you are all powerful, that you are a being of light, that you may have all that you want for your soul just by aligning with it. And a lot of what's out there, and this is why my beloved Perry and I put together this ebook, Surfing the Transformational Waves of 2012, Supportive Tools for Your Journey Home, is because I'm hearing a lot out there on the internet where people are asking, well, how do we prepare ourselves? How do we participate in our most increase our capacity and have traction in this whole journey? And where's the tools? What do we do? And so we put together this little e-booklet to put out some tools so that people could focus on something rather than just waiting for something to happen to them eventually. And the four intentions that I use as my main tools are surrender, awareness, non-attachment, and full engagement. And with those four intentions pulled together simultaneously, it pulls you in your piercing presence, which pulls you into your power. It pulls you into your magical self.
Well, how important do you think is activating your Merkaba? And mind you, there's so many different versions of it out there, and I get wary when people say if you don't do it this way, you'll end up in some kind of soul oblivion. But maybe that's just like what we talked about before, is that there are different soul groups, and each soul group has its own process.
It's a really big question that I've been thinking about quite a bit, because I do believe what I've come down to is that there perhaps are groups of souls that needed to focus on their Merkaba. I myself, I know that I didn't get here without my Merkaba.
Right.
So that's how I made peace with that, because I have a great deal of respect for Drunvalo Melchizedek, and I believe 100% of what he's teaching and how he's teaching it. The man has integrity in his soul that can't be denied. And at the same time, I can't buy into needing to practice those tools to get my Merkaba going, because I know that I had it before I got here. It's how I got here. It was my transport vehicle to get here.
So the way it's sort of expressed is that you need to activate it. I mean, and it sounds like it's a part of who we are anyway, and has to. For me, it's already active.
That's how I feel for mine as well.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make anybody wrong here. I'm just what I'm saying is that there may well be groups for whom that is completely appropriate. But for me, I get very, possibly I'm overly cynical, but I do get wary when I'm told that Ascension looks like this and you must do this, and the consequences are oblivion, or you'll end up in hell, or whatever terms they want to use, because, and this is what's working for me, is that the only way I can get through this is to try and be in the moment as much as possible, stay open of heart and mind, and be in the faith and the belief and the knowing that whatever I have to do when I have to do it, I will know, and I will know how.
Mm-hmm.
And if I stay in that space, that's working for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not trying to preempt anything, not trying to activate anything in preparation for, just staying in the moment and being open. And if something comes up, then, and if I don't feel like in that moment I know how to handle it, all I have to do is ask. And
Absolutely.
and then somehow
Absolutely.
it works itself out. Um,
Absolutely.
that's what's working for me.
That is so beautifully put and very, very powerful. I agree 100%. And awareness is that listening. That's one of the spokes of the four intentions. And the presence is such a big piece of it. And if we're looking outside of ourselves for how to do this ascension, because there are beings too that are saying that they're going to come down and teach us how to ascend, that's a little suspicious to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only listening to my inner voice and my fifth dimensional guides and my soul, my creator. And I trust that so fully that I don't need anything outside of me to tell me what to do or how to do it.
It's funny, isn't it? The message ultimately is, and always should be, go with your own inner guidance. And all the teachers are out there are saying, go with your own inner guidance. So we don't really need the teachers. We just need to go with our own inner guidance.
Yes.
And yet we wouldn't be doing this. And I think I think we're on track, and I think we're doing a good job. And I do not buy into, and I haven't now since I had an experience August, September last year where I literally felt a shift within the collective consciousness and a split, in fact. And from that point on, none of the fear-mongering has had a hook in me, you know, as if I personally shifted timelines or something, I don't know.
Oh, yes.
And I only see a really positive outcome here. And I think we're doing a really, really good job, and we're on track. And how can I put it? I think people need to start to acknowledge the work that they've done and how far they've come, and acknowledge the incredible choices that they've made to bring them to where they're at right now, and the fact that they're here in the first place, right here, right now. And if we do that, if we can acknowledge, even very much in the 3D way, the way the world has changed in the last year or so, even, then we empower ourselves by doing that a bit, and onward and upward.
Yes, beautifully said.
Sorry, I'm feeling very dreamy at the moment. Maybe it's talking to you. I'm off in dreamland a little bit.
That's a good thing. And you know what you mentioned, what I've always thought of as the cell mitosis. That in these times, there's several timelines, and ultimately, I believe that there's going to be a cell mitosis, and this is a term in cell biology, when a cell is about to split into two beings. The chromosomes polarize to either side right before the two cells split, and then they're in two different universes, so to speak. And I think of these times as a cell mitosis split, and it's not when the event happens, it's now, because we are already dividing into beings that are accessing their creative capacities, and those that are not, that are still locked into the lie of the matrix. So we're already seeing the cell division happening.
Definitely. And for me, the catalyst was all of the, well, in fact, the whole year of 2011 was about fear for me. It was about me confronting, releasing, and letting go of fear. And fears that I didn't even know I had, like deep-seated unconscious stuff. And it culminated in all of the talk around Elenin at the end of the year, around August, September last year. And really confronting, okay, what is this going to look like? And when I took myself on a journey of the worst case scenario, suddenly it all just went away.
Ha,
It all just went. And I literally woke up one day
ha, ha,
knowing I had changed and
ha.
feeling this split within the collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things I seem to be able to do, not to any real strong degree, I don't think, but as others can, but I can tune into the collective and get a sense of where it's at. And it was a real shock to me that morning to feel what
Wow.
I felt.
Yeah, powerful experience. And what a beautiful example of what happens when we excavate our fears, proactively excavate our fears and let them go. And then we expand our frequency just from that alone, and expand our awareness. And every one of us that do that pop everybody else out into the next level of their own process of it, because it's the 100th monkey thing going on right now, totally.
Yeah, well, I think for me, what works is when fear comes up, you go down that road. You mentally go down the road of, okay, well, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yes, worst case scenario.
What is it?
And
Dying?
then it's, yeah.
Okay, well, what are my thoughts really around that? What do I really feel about that?
Yep. It
Um,
reveals the source of the fear, and then we realize that it has nothing to stand on.
yeah. I mean, I don't even think that death is our biggest fear. I think it's ceasing to be at all. It's oblivion. It's annihilation. I think that's our fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's possible.
I agree.
You do? You don't think you can be annihilated?
Well, what I believe is, for example, where are these beings going to go that have been getting away with this all this time? I believe that the natural cycle through a bottleneck like this that we're experiencing is we're all going into the in-breath of God.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that they are going to experience annihilation. They might think that they're experiencing annihilation because it's such a foreign place to them, but it is not annihilation at all. It's repair time, because I believe in a very loving God.
So when it gets, just want to get your ideas on 4D again, because you said your experiences of it is predominantly that the beings there are malevolent. Why? I mean, in the sense of, okay, 3D we have this duality paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it seems that 4D is actually predominantly negative, as opposed to even a balance between positive and negative, or a polarity. Um,
Well,
what's your experience of the structure like that?
okay. The way I understand 4D is it's like a game board. 3D is one game board, 4D is another game board, and we all have access to 4D. So shamans, when they're performing a healing, they're accessing 4D. When we make say our prayers, we're accessing 4D. When we talk to archangels, we're accessing the fourth dimension. Now, right now, the fourth dimension is overpopulated with malevolent beings and false light beings. And we're seeing tons of it show up here. So that's my definition of 4D. We have access to it just as much as they do. And it's not an unsafe place if we walk through that dimension with our eyes wide open.
Mm-hmm. So when we go through the cycle of reincarnation, I know what my vision is of this, but what do you think happens? Do you think we sort of recycle between third and fourth?
I think that is one part of the cycle, yes. And I think that there's plenty of us that have stayed in that cycle without returning to source or 5D.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so foreign. I think that there have been some souls that were locked into the cycle, this local cycle of 3D 40, 3D 40. And an example of this is when someone dies of such a horrific death, just like the way I believe it's the Anasazi were murdered, like all of our precious indigenous people have been. And this is a hard subject for me. But an example, and this comes from Drumvalo, and he describes how many of them were locked into the fourth dimension, like ghosts roaming around because their healing, they needed a healing before they could be set free to go on all the way home. So I do believe that there are those cycles, and the soul opportunity now, being incarnate at this time, is to pop out of that cycle.
Yeah, that's almost word for word what I would have said.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean this matrix that we're in that is encompassing this planet, this 3D planet, I believe also encompasses an aspect of 4D, not all of it, but some of it, and that it's because I got it in a vision and it looked like a fishing net that had been cast around the planet, encompassing 3 and 4D,
mm-hmm.
and that there were many souls caught in this net, in this matrix, and just literally being recycled, the rinse and repeat cycle I've been calling
Yes.
it, between 3 and 4D. And that's why, and this light that people see during a near-death experience, that there is a true light, but there's also a false light. And the false light is like a carrot, a little dangling carrot that says, come this way, come over
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they see their parents and their dog and their loved ones, is because they're all caught in it.
Yes.
And there'll be rare individuals, and there has been rare individuals over the years who have not been part of that cycle or been able to break out of that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But now what we've got is an opportunity to break out of it en masse, because that matrix is breaking down. And going home is an option, because I don't believe that reincarnation, the way we're doing it, the way it's been done between this rinse and repeat between 3 and 4D, is natural. It feels incredibly artificial to me, and that we should have and do have naturally, organically, the ability to incarnate at will anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
as
I
any
agree.
being, really,
Mm-hmm.
and have a different experience. And that, yeah, this whole death thing is all a bit, I don't know, doesn't feel right either. Either does aging. Aging doesn't make sense to me at all.
Mm-hmm. It's foreign to you for a reason, I'm sure.
I've told this story once before. I think it was on a radio program, but it was the 1st of January 2000, and I'd already been finding information about scientists saying they really can't actually explain aging because of the way our cells reproduce, that aging doesn't actually make sense. And then on the 1st of January 2000, there was a front page of a paper that had, I think it was 6 people, photographs of 6 people who had lived through the whole century. You know, they were 100 or 101 or 99. They had photos of them when they were young, either as children or in their early 20s or something, and then a current photo. And I looked at it and it just struck me so hard that there was something seriously wrong with this process, and that our bodies are actually rotting and decaying while we're still in them. And it's not right. That's not natural.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like an abhorrent, unnatural process.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And now look at how we have youth as the highest value in our culture, and we look up to the pretty 20-year-olds, and we wear our makeup so we look like 20-year-olds, so that our men are still attracted to us while they're being tempted by porn and the movie stars and the celebrities, and that there's all reason behind that as well. That's all a dark design.
Yes, and we've lost all respect for, at least in the West, to a large degree. We've lost the respect for the wisdom that comes with age. And I'm not saying every person who grows old becomes wise by any means, but those who do, we've lost reverence You know, in Indigenous cultures, they still have reverence for their elders. We don't. And that's a real shame because I think we've lost a lot in the process.
Oh, we have. We've lost a lot by being detribed.
Detribed. Yeah, that's a good word.
Mm.
And that's what people are finding too now is they're looking for their tribes again. And many people are
Yeah.
only finding them on the internet. You know, they found their tribe online because they don't have it in their day-to-day life. And communities are establishing all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. We need each other right now more than ever. So
Mm,
it's a really good thing that we're finding each other.
absolutely. And the more people who speak out about their experiences, um, and everyone's having them. Everyone. You know,
Hmm.
even if they don't know what they're having and why they're having it,
Hmm.
they just know that there's something really strange about the world right now and what's going on with them and in their relationships. They may not have the answers.
Hmm.
Um, but the more people share their stories and the
Hmm.
more people share their experiences, the better, I think, because someone it's going to make a difference to somebody, you know. And
Absolutely. So that is part of your soul purpose, and that's why you're doing what you're doing.
I know, and
Hmm.
I it's funny for me because I went through a process where I just got so frustrated and just completely heartfelt said out loud, I believe, I just want to do what I came here to do. I just want to get on with it.
Hmm.
You know, I'm floundering here, you know.
Hmm.
And I think probably within a month or two, I was doing this. And, you know, it's not a career in the sense of, um, I don't make any money off it. I don't, it's not supporting me in any way financially. Um, but it's what I do 24/7 is I guess I've taken my own personal journey and made it public.
Hmm.
That's probably the best way to describe it.
Hmm.
Because I would be wanting to talk to you and ask you these questions and have this conversation anyway. And
Hmm.
the same goes for everybody I've spoken to.
Hmm.
So if I can make those conversations public in the hope that somebody will listen to it and it'll help them on their journey, then
Hmm.
that's the whole point.
Beautiful. So beautiful. I can feel your heart behind it too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know what else to do. I've got to play a part in this. I've got to do something. So,
Hmm.
you know, being nosy and wanting to know everything is what I can do. And talking to people, I can do that.
What fun too.
Yeah, and it's fun, absolutely. It's been a real pleasure, though, I must admit, and I'm still intrigued about how you go by how you go about your day to day life while having these experiences in 5D. How you incorporate that into what you do next in your day to day life. How you relate to your community and the people around you.
Hmm.
You know, does everyone think you're nuts where you are, or are you in
Uh,
are you in a supportive community and family, or
I live in a very, very conscious town, but I'm incognito. I don't talk about any of this to my local community, but I do have 3 or 4 friends that are aware of this level of work that I'm doing. But other than that, no one knows what I'm doing. I'm kind of keeping my invisible cloak for good reason. But the way I do my day to day integration is I take my fifth dimensional experiences of what I call home of this powerful love, and I hone that home here. And as I was saying earlier, I used to get homesick with it. I would get a little depressed and long for that place. And now I'm realizing that I'm only had those visitations, so to speak, quote unquote visitations, so that I could hone home here, so that I could be familiar with and embody that frequency of love. And then I take that and put that into action in terms of how much I'm willing to feel my love for my family and my friends and practice it on a daily basis in terms of how we interact with each other. Another piece of this in terms of our process and how to free ourselves sooner than later is recapitulation. The Hawaiian kahunas use this. I believe they call it Ho'oponopono. The Toltec
I can never
practice,
say that word.
and I hope I said it right. I'm not sure. But then we have the Toltec practice recapitulation. The Inca practice this in their death rites. And what it is the way I see relationships is all of our relationships are a mirror of the soul. And that's why we're here practicing relationships, so that we can increase our capacity to practice love. So wherever there is a conflict in your life, it's a reflection of a conflict within your soul and your own conflict with God. So this is an opportunity to heal all of our relationships, so that we can be practicing and vibrating love, so that we can be experiencing love and receiving love as well. And the way we do this is through the ceremony of forgiveness and apology. And what I did at one point is I locked myself in a room for 3 days and did a full recapitulation by making an inventory, a list of all of the people that I've ever been involved with. And then I reviewed where the conflicts were, and I made my apologies where I needed to make my apologies. And my forgiveness, I gave forgiveness wherever I needed to give forgiveness, and then let go of resentment, let go of withheld feelings, and completed those cycles so that I could be free, so that my soul could be free to expand. And sometimes when I do this at the altar with my husband, we will do a remote healing in this way by taking, say, a grandmother that passed on and doing a recapitulation with her, or we'll do it with someone that we're no longer in contact with, and then we'll see a difference in that person, or that person might call and say, I haven't heard from you in a long time, and for some reason I was thinking about you yesterday. Let's connect again. And then it can happen in 3D at that point. But we're actually seeing that our intentions in ceremony can have a big impact on others just through doing this, the recapitulation ceremony in and of itself.
Okay, well, what about when you've got somebody in your life who is destructive, psychopathic even? Mm-hmm. And because I don't believe that we need to be a doormat and allow ourselves to be abused by abusers and destructive people. Because there is that sort of new age talk that, it's all about forgiveness, and it's all about, love and light. And I think a lot of people allow themselves to be abused by trying to live that. How do you deal with, or how do you recommend people deal with those abusive influences?
That would be healing their codependencies. And it's really worth doing, because once you heal the codependency that created that dynamic to begin with, you realize your power again, and you don't allow them to treat you that way. It's cutting cords. You cut the cords, heal the codependency that created or allowed the cords, and you do your whole recapitulation process with it, let it go, and then that person shouldn't be in your life anymore.
Right. So that's the difference, I think, is that you don't actually have to have this person in your 3D experience in order to have healed it.
Yes.
The idea that, well, it'll only be healed once we can be together and everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, absolutely. There can be, you let go, sever all the cords. Now I do have a situation when my friend, beautiful man, and he has an ex-wife that is incredibly, unreasonably abusive. And she uses her cords, and I explained to him that part of his experience in this process is for him to experience his own healing so that he can experience his power. It's his soul's journey, and that's why she still has impact in his life. And once he self-sources his energy and doesn't allow these cords to exist, she won't have power over him. Then he's still going to have to relate to her because they have children. So they still have to have a distant relationship, but then she wouldn't be able to have that much impact on him if he could heal his emotional wounds that create the cords.
And usually people like that are looking for a response and a reaction as well. So if he's no longer responding and reacting in the way that she wants, then...
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that's really important about... And that's part of being sovereign.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is honouring and respecting and loving yourself. And you know, the I don't mean to sound insulting, but the light and love fluffies um, don't want to or feel it's necessary, you know, to forgive everyone and allow them in their life, no matter who they are and however they're treated. But that they're not loving themselves. They're not respecting themselves. They're not showing love and light to themselves when they do that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
There's been a lot of that in this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Yes, I enjoyed it too very much. Thank you so much for taking the time with me today and for your great, great work in the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And yours.